Hi everyone. We are now going to chapter 2, Principles and Aspects of Development. So, there is a set of principles that characterizes the pattern and process of growth and development. They show that although there are individual differences in children, their personalities, activity levels, and timing of developmental milestones and cultural differences, human development still has a predictable, orderly, and universal pattern. An understanding of this helps educators to plan appropriate activities and stimulating and enriching experiences for children. Also, it provides a basis for understanding how to encourage and support students' learning. We now go to principles of child human development. The first one is development proceeds from the head downward. Cephalocaudal principle. This is called the cephalocaudal principle. This principle describes the direction of growth and development, as you can see from head to toe. Growth follows an orderly sequence, which in general is the same for all individuals. According to this principle, the child gains control of the head first, then the arms, and then the legs. Imagine that you are holding a newborn baby. You have to carefully support the baby's head because the baby is not yet that strong enough to support its head by itself. So, about 2 months old, the baby develops enough strength to hold its head up on its own and to control its facial movements. And over the next few months, the baby can now gain control over the use of its arms. The baby can already lift itself and it can already reach for some objects. And finally, after a few more months, the child learns to control the leg movements and then to crawl, stand, and begin to walk. Implication: the directions of human development must be considered in planning activities for the children to assure satisfaction. Application: this principle helps teachers to know in what stage a particular aspect of growth the children are in order to better understand them, especially their behavior. Number 2, development proceeds from the center of the body outward. Proximodistal development. It implies that the spinal cord develops before the outer parts of the body. The child arms develop before the hands, and the hands and feet develop before the fingers and toes. Finger and toe muscles used in fine motor dexterity, are the last to develop in physical development. Implication: the directions of human development must be considered in planning activities for the children to assure satisfaction. Application: this principle helps teachers to know in what stage a particular aspect of growth the children are in order to better understand them, especially their behavior. Number 3. Development depends on maturation and learning. Maturation refers to the sequential characteristics of biological growth and development. The biological changes occur in sequential order and give children new abilities. Changes in the brain and nervous system account largely for maturation. These changes in the brain and nervous system help children mature to a certain point before they can progress to new skills. So, an example for this is a 4-month-old cannot use language because the brain of the infant or the child has not matured enough to allow him or her to talk. By 2 years old, then the brain has developed further, and with the help of coming from the others, the child will have the capacity to say and understand some words. Also, a child cannot write or draw until he has developed the motor control to hold a pencil or crayon. Maturational patterns are innate, genetically programmed. The child's environment and the learning that occurs as a result of the child's experiences largely determine whether the child will reach optimal development. A stimulating environment and varied experiences allow a child to develop to his or her potential, improve in thinking or cognitive and motor, physical skills. Implication: children must acquire skills necessary for the development of other skills. Application: knowledge of characteristic traits at different stages can be of considerable value for teachers in choosing the appropriate activities as well as the methods of teaching. Number 4. Development proceeds from the simple or concrete to the more complex. This is also known as principle of hierarchical integration, which states that those simple skills typically develop separately and independently, but are later integrated into more complex skills. Children use their cognitive and language skills to reason and solve problems. For example, learning relationships between things, how things are similar, or classification is an important ability in cognitive development. Implication: as children develop further in cognitive skills, they are able to understand a higher and more complex relationship between objects and things. Example: that an apple and orange exist in a class called fruit. Application: teachers must consider the maturity level of the students in asking them to do something. Forcing a student who is not mature may lead to personality disturbance. Number 5, growth and development is a continuous process. Most children follow a similar pattern. As a child develops, he or she adds to the skills already acquired, and the new skills become the basis for further achievement and mastery of skills. Implication: one stage of development lays the foundation for the next stage of development. Application: knowledge of characteristic traits at different stages can be of considerable value for teachers in choosing the appropriate activities as well as the methods of teaching. Number 6. Growth and development proceed from the general to specific. In motor development, the infant will be able to grasp an object with the whole hand before using the thumb and forefinger. The infant's first motor movements are very generalized, undirected, and reflexive. Under this, we have here such as waving of the arms or kicking before being able to reach or creep toward an object. Growth occurs from large muscle movements to more refined or smaller muscle movements. Characteristic traits vary at different stages. Traits become more complex as the child gets older. Implication: some skills are needed in the development of more complex sequence activities in the classroom. Application: knowledge of characteristic traits at different stages can be of considerable value for teachers in choosing the appropriate activities as well as methods of teaching. Number 7. There are individual rates of growth and development. Also known as principle of independence of systems. It asserts that each child is different and the rates at which individual children grow is different. Although the patterns and sequences for growth and development are usually the same for all children, the rates at which individual children reach developmental stages will be different. Understanding this fact of individual differences in rates of development should cause us to be more careful about using and relying on age and stage characteristics to describe or label the children. There is a range of ages for any developmental task to take place, so this dismisses the notion of the average child. Implication: rates of development also are not uniform within an individual child. Example: a child's intellectual development may progress faster than his emotional or social development. The rate of development is unique to each individual. Number 8. Development is influenced by both heredity, nature, and environment, nurture. The process of heredity and environment are interdependent and complementary. Neither appears to be dominant. A child's genetic inheritance or heredity provides the basic foundation for many physical and personality attributes, but the influences of social, cultural, and familial variables, the environment, also contribute to development. Implication: students' personalities, learning and development are product of the interplay of different factors. Application: teachers must take note the personal background, the family, and so on, and environment of their students in order to better understand them, especially their behavior. And number 9, optimal tendency of development. The body tends to maintain a state of equilibrium called homeostasis, where the body tends to adapt to environmental conditions and strives to preserve constant internal environment despite changing conditions. Implication: teachers must be keen observers in order to respond effectively to the signs of uneasiness or boredom on the part of the students while they are teaching. Application: the children should be given a target or goal to be reached to sustain their enthusiasm and interest. We now go to the aspects of development. So the interplay of these domains influence and determine the development and personality of an individual. We have here 4 aspects. Number 1 is physical development. So it pertains to the changes in the body structures and functions over time. Physical growth and physiological change will be rapid during the first year and then steady until puberty. It is important to remember that every individual may grow and develop at a different time and rate from their peers. Number 2, cognitive development. It refers to the gradual and orderly changes in the individual's mental processes from simple to complex or sophisticated. This is how a child will learn and develop thinking and language skills. Intellectual and cognitive development will be influenced by the environment in which a child lives and then the experiences that they have. So mostly occurs in the middle childhood and adolescence. Number 3, psychosocial development. It refers to the changes in personal and intrapersonal aspects of individual, such as motives, emotions, personality traits, and interpersonal skills. Emotional development is learning and developing the emotional skills to live within family and society. It is the emergence of child's experience, expression, understanding, and regulation of emotions from birth through late adolescence. Social development. It is characterized by a dramatic change in the quantity and quality of social relationships. It is about how children and adolescents build or establish relationships with other people and how they learn to manage and be responsible for these relationships. For example, part of a child's social development will involve learning how to make friends and how to become a good friend. Number 4, behavioral development. It results from behavioral experimentation of children and adolescents as response to the developmental changes they go through. This experimentation results in risk taking, which is a normal part of adolescent development. Engaging in risk taking behavior helps them shape their identities and try out new decision making. So, again, that's the end of the presentation. And thank you all for listening and keep safe, everyone.